Hi everyone, welcome to my channel if you're new, or welcome back if you're not. So we're kind of starting in the dark. It looks like nighttime, but it's not that dark outside because I'm filming this just after I filmed my check-in for this video. I just touched up my makeup a little bit. So today I'm just going to be sharing some tips that I find useful for helping to prevent creasing in my foundation and concealer. I find personally that my foundation creases in my expression lines and my concealer creases under my eyes. So we're just going to be talking about what I do to help prevent that. So if you'd like to see my tips, then just keep watching. So the first thing I will do to help prevent creasing is to prep my skin with an eyeshadow primer. So an eyeshadow primer is made to help stop creasing in your eye area and the eyelids. It helps control the oils so that the products don't move around. And that is exactly what I want for those areas where I get creasing on my face. So for me, that's my expression lines, so my smile lines and my forehead lines. So I will just use that in those specific areas. I've already prepped my skin with my normal primer, which is the Kiko Matte Face Base. I have oily skin, so I like a mattifying primer. So today I'm going to be doing these kind of helpful tips on this side and I won't be doing them on this side. So I'll just take some of this using the wand and pop it just in those lines. And then I'll raise my brows to see exactly where those creases fall. And this is the Urban Decay Primer Potion. This is just in the anti-aging formula. So it's still clear, but it's just the extra benefits of being anti-aging. And then what I'll do is I'll take my foundation brush and I'll just press that in. I'm not going to kind of buff and blend it out. I just want it to stay in that area and just set down. So I'm just tapping it into the skin. So I can just see there that it dried down quite quickly in that area. So I am just going to go in and kind of buff out those edges because I don't want it to create any kind of weird texture under my foundation. So then I'll pop on my foundation. So I'll pop it onto this side first. So just run that all over using a little fluffy blending style foundation brush and just put it on the same way I would normally do. And just if you're curious, I'm using a mixture of the Flormar Matte Touch foundation with the Kat Von D Locket. So then we'll take our foundation for this side. And to start off with, I'm going to avoid those areas where I pop the primer. So I'll just put the foundation kind of across my cheeks and my nose and my chin. Buff it around my jawline, up onto my temple. And then just with a small amount of product, then I'll start going over those areas where I get the creasing. And the reason I'm doing that is because basically the more product you have in those areas, the more it can crease. You don't get creasing in those areas when you don't have foundation on. So the lighter our application is in those areas, the less it's going to crease. And just doing those other areas first allows me to see how much coverage or how little coverage I actually need in those problematic areas. So I just dusted that over and really that's evened it out. I don't have a huge amount of discoloration on my forehead. I just like a little bit more coverage in the center there, but I'll be going in with a bit of concealer as well when I'm highlighting. And then the same for down here. I do have a little blemish here that I would want to cover. But other than that, then I'm just using a light hand to buff over that little smile line area. So now that we have the foundation on, I'm going to pop on some concealer. And just before I do that, I'm going to do the same thing that I did to prep my skin for the foundation, which is take a little bit of primer and again, use it in the areas that I crease. For me, I have two fairly deep creases that just fall as part of my eye shape under my eyes. I'm just going to blend that in with my finger. It really just depends on your eye shape. Some people just don't have creases under there for their concealer to fall into. Some people will just have little fine lines and some people like me will just have natural creases under there. So generally when there's creases like that, like even without expression, they're just there. It's kind of inevitable that some creasing will happen, but this is just to help kind of prevent it and slow it down. So I'm just popping on my concealer and this is the Kat Von D Locket Concealer. And I also like to highlight with my concealer. Just going to pop some primer on my eyelid so that I can take any excess concealer over there. And again, we're going to be preventing creasing of that. So now that I'm blending out the concealer on this side where I have the primer under the eye, I'm just going to concentrate on blending out the edges first. And I'm going to kind of let it set a little bit up closer to the eye. Again, we don't want too much product in that area where you get that creasing. So I'm just going to concentrate on where I need the coverage and where I want the brightness. And then I can just like dust up any extra right under the eye where I get that creasing. So then the next step is to really set those areas in place. Again, we want to stop it moving around so much and to just stay in the one area. And it depends on your skin type and your preferences whether you like to set or not. Personally, I always set all over with the powder because again, I'm oily. So then when I really want to target that setting, I will kind of go in and basically bake. But if you're more dry and you don't like a huge amount of powder, you can just go in with like a regular pressed powder and lightly set those areas and see how you find it. So for today, I'm going to be using the Ben Nye Neutral Set Colourless Face Powder. And I'm using a little flat top fluffy concealer brush. And I'm just going to press that over the areas that I want to set. So using a nice small brush like this will give you kind of targeted setting. So I'll let that set on its own for a few minutes. Okay, so that's had time to settle and most of it has actually kind of sunk into my skin. So I'll just over those areas to get any excess off, if there is any. And then I'm just going to take a dusting of that powder to set my face as normal, to just control the oils on the rest of my face. So I'll also do my normal setting on this side as well. So those are basically the things I do to help prevent creasing. I can already see a difference under my eyes and on my eyelids. I'll just zoom you in to give you a look. So as you can see, with my eyes relaxed, you can see those two lines that just naturally fall under my eye. But when I kind of squint, you can see that the product is gathering in those creases on this side, but not so much on this side. And then also on my lid, you can see that the product has gathered in those creases here. And it has gathered here as well, but just not as strongly as this side and this side because I had that primer potion down. So you can already see a difference in the eye area, but generally I'll get creasing in kind of my forehead and my smile lines after a while when I've been kind of going about my day and talking and things. So I'm actually going to go ahead and finish my makeup, and because I am popping on eyeshadow, I am going to even out the lids and pop some primer potion on this side as well. But that kind of gave you an idea of what exactly the primer potion does. So I'm just going to finish my makeup and then I'll pop back for a starting point, and then we'll do a check-in later in the day to see the difference of the two sides. Okay, so I am back with my makeup done, and while I was doing my eyeshadow, I did think of one other tip that I forgot to mention, which is that when you're doing your eyeshadow, to blend it down a little bit further under the eye. So that basically you're adding a little bit more powder over those creases to set it even more. So I did blend one of the eyeshadows a little bit further down on this side. So when I'm doing my makeup, I tend to move my face around. I move my brows up and down when I'm doing my shadow and stuff. And for contour and stuff, I'll kind of do a bit of that. So I've started to get a little bit of creasing already, and I'll zoom you in so you can see the difference of the two sides. So as you can see on the forehead, a little bit of creasing happening, and you can definitely see that bit more on this side, this line here, this one here, and the middle one, and not quite as much on the other side. So then with my concealer, you can still see it gathering in the creases of my eye underneath there, whereas it's holding up pretty well so far on this side. And then in my smile lines, again, I'm getting a little bit of creasing on both sides, but definitely more on this side. I'm not sure how well you can see it on camera, that my foundation is just starting to crease and kind of crack along there. I have a little bit of a line there, but not so much. So it's actually already 6 o'clock in the evening here. I don't know where the day went, but the weather is fabulous here at the moment, so it's still so bright outside. So I'll continue to wear my makeup throughout the evening, and I will check back with you later in the day. Hey guys, so I'm back for my checkup. It is now 9:30, so it's 3.5 hours later. So I'll zoom in and give you a closer look. So again, the same as before, but just a little bit more. We've got more creasing on this side rather than this side, which we prepped with primer and powder and all that. For the eyes, again, you can see the concealer had gathered on this side, but not over here. And then for the smile lines, it's kind of harder to see this on camera. In real life, I can really see a difference from one to the other, but just on the monitor there, I'm seeing a slight difference. So there's very faint creasing on that side. It's just like one fine crack. And on this side, there's a much deeper crease. So those are my tips to help prevent creasing in your foundation and concealer. And if you have any more that you find work, please leave them down in the comments. I'd love to try them out, and I'm sure people watching this would love to hear them as well. So yeah, that's it from me for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye guys.